Hey, it's Tara. So I work with a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of business people that own one or more businesses. And one of the common questions that I get, and one of the things that we work on a lot, is really how to deal with the overwhelm that comes with being a solo entrepreneur or being a business person in partnership, being part of a startup. There's so much stress involved with that, and most people are dealing with a fast pace of work, a lot of responsibilities, being stretched in multiple directions with a lot of distractions, and trying to balance a healthy life, happiness, and often families and partnership. And that's a lot for one person to manage on a daily basis. And the hours are not set. If you're an entrepreneur, you're working 7 days a week, you're working 70 hours a week. And that will take its toll over time. So there is the payoff in that you're doing something that you love. It doesn't always feel like work. You have purpose in what you're doing. You have passion in what you're doing. So that will help give you fuel to push through a lot of the fatigue that you might get, a lot of the disruptions and roadblocks that you might come across, because you really believe in what you're doing. And so that's the payoff. And there's this high adrenaline part of it. So typically, if you're one of these people, you are high functioning, you have a lot of success in your history, and you work really hard and diligently at what you do. So you have the best work ethic in the world. But you might notice that you feel overwhelmed sometimes. And this is the question I get a lot of the time, which is, I don't really have a mental illness. I don't feel particularly depressed or that I'm clinically anxious, but I do feel overwhelmed, and that impacts my ability to be present with my family. It reduces my emotional intelligence, and it impacts my ability to focus and be as productive as I want to feel. But I also want to feel balanced and healthy and calm, and I don't always feel that way because of the pressures of this kind of job. So I get it, because I am in the same boat. I run a couple of businesses, and the pace is really intense. I'm a single parent of 2 teenagers, and we are busy all the time, and my days start at 5 and they end who knows when. So these are things that I do for myself to keep myself healthy, regulated, well balanced. And there's some really simple things, and it's not going to be what you think. So you can read a whole bunch of books on it, but it's not about thinking. It's not about even emotions. It's about learning how to hack into that part of your nervous system that is full of activation, because that's what that is. Overwhelm is just that sense of a fuller cup, and that comes from activation in your nervous system. There's ways that you can go through your day that really aren't going to be disruptive, and they're not going to take a lot of time, that you can help regulate your nervous system, feel less activated, and have a bit of a reset in your day so that you can go on from one task and one event to the next in a lot more grounded way. And so the first thing that you're going to notice is if you're sitting there in your office and you're starting to feel overwhelmed, or if you're on your way home and you're starting to feel overwhelmed, you want to notice where that shows up in your body. So it's counterintuitive, because we want to outthink it, because we're wired to push through stuff. Just kind of get over it and pull in your grit and push through. Really, you can only push through for so long, and what's going to happen is your body's going to start breaking down. You're going to see symptoms of anxiety, depression. You might have insomnia, increased headaches, decreased immune function, autoimmune disease. All of these things are related to pushing through, when really what we need to do is pull back and regulate. So I'm not saying do less. What I'm saying is, when you feel overwhelmed, when you feel activated, call it what it is. This is just activation. I'm overwhelmed right now because of this, all of these things that are going on. You want to notice where you feel the sensation of being overwhelmed. So a lot of us are going to say we feel it in our chest area, and that might be shallow breath, that might be tightness, that might be discomfort. Some people even have chest pain from stress. And you might feel that in the moment as you bring awareness to, where am I feeling this in my physical body? And again, it might be tension in your muscles, in your shoulders and neck. Everybody's going to be a little bit different. But if you feel overwhelmed, guaranteed there is a corresponding sensation in your body. You just have to find it. So we want to bring awareness to it. And when we bring awareness to it, we don't want to try and fix it. We don't want to overthink it. We just want to notice it. Notice where you feel that sensation. So for example, if it's in my chest, I'm going to kind of imagine how much space it takes up, what the sensation is, what it might look like. I might give it a texture or a color so I can visualize it. I'm going to notice the shape of it in my own body. And as I do that, I'm going to see if I can find the edges to it. and trace the edges with my mind's eye as if I was tracing it with a pencil in my own body. And as I do that, I'm going to notice what happens. Noticing, bringing awareness to the activation, tracing the edges of it. I'm going to pull my awareness away. How does it feel an inch lower, an inch to the back, out to the sides? Where does it just start to shift? And here's the key. Where does it just start to shift between being uncomfortable and being comfortable? And when I find that place, that gap, I really want to bring my awareness to that gap. Just noticing the gap between where it just starts to shift. I might even notice what it would be like if my breath could come into my body and kind of waft through that gap and then come out all by itself. And if I can do that, if I bring awareness to that, if I visualize that, typically what you're going to notice is that there is a decrease in symptoms. You're going to notice that there's a little bit of a shift. And as you notice what happens in your body, you want to bring awareness to it. So if there's a shift to things starting to let go a little bit, starting to feel a little more comfortable, your breath deepening, this area opening up, feeling less tense, all you want to do is bring awareness to it. Again, you're not trying to solve it, you're not trying to think about it, you're just dealing with the activation where it lives in your nervous system, which is not in your frontal lobes and your thinking brain. It's really where it lives in the felt sense. That's the language of the nervous system. So we want to hack in there and we want to diffuse it from that space. So as you're imagining this and imagining the edges and imagining your breath moving through the edges, you're going to start to notice things start to shift, and you just want to bring awareness to it. I notice how my breath is deeper. I notice how things feel a little calmer. I notice how I feel less overwhelmed. Sit with it a moment. Notice what it's like to have your breath move in and out easier. Notice what it's like to feel a little less tension. And as you notice the shift into the positive, into feeling more regulated, there's going to be a deepening of it. There's going to be more of it. And so that's a really quick and easy reset that you can do by tapping into your own nervous system to help regulate. And so if that isn't enough, you can go into your imagination. And your imagination is, where would I be? Where else could I be? That's my favorite place that I know I would feel totally perfectly relaxed. And imagine it in great detail. And for me, it's always going to be on the beach in Maui. And so I imagine what it smells like, what the sand feels like against my skin, what the sun feels like beating down on me, the sounds of the ocean, anything I might feel. I want to bring in all my senses to incorporate into this imagination. And then I want to notice, again, always coming back to the body. What do I notice in my body as I picture this? Now, you can do this once an hour, whether you feel overwhelmed or not, and it's going to increase your resilience because you're constantly tracking and minimizing the amount of activation in your nervous system. So if you have an app to tell you how to get up and move once an hour, or an app that tells you if you're hydrated enough or not, you can set a timer so that every hour you're doing a bit of a scan. You're noticing where your body feels, maybe a little bit of tension or activation, but mostly you're noticing where you feel relatively comfortable comparatively. And then you want to focus on those places. And the place that you really want to end when you do this kind of an exercise, and it's 5 minutes or less for the most part, is you want to notice where you feel the most connected, the most calm, the most grounded, or just the best in your body, the heaviest, most comfortable place in your body. And so for a lot of people, if you're sitting in a comfortable chair, it's going to be where the chair makes contact with your butt or with your back. And you just want to bring awareness to the physical space, just where there's contact between your body and the supportive element, whatever that might be. And notice what it's like to feel supported by what you're sitting on, how that part of your body feels comfortable and heavy. As you bring your awareness to those places, some of this other activation is going to come down and you're going to feel grounded, calmer, able to go back to the next task. In addition to this, you want to make sure that you are bringing in supportive lifestyle adjustments, like you're eating an anti-inflammatory diet, you're maybe taking supplements that are going to support balancing out your brain and making sure that you don't have deficiencies. And there's a whole list of those that I provide for my clients, and I recommend they get testing to make sure they're not deficient in things. You want to make sure you're exercising every day. And a big one for entrepreneurs is you want to make sure that you're minimizing multitasking, because our brains don't work and function effectively that way. So you want to go from one task methodically to the next. And there's a whole bunch of programs and theories and techniques that you can do to really get the most out of your brain. but they're typically going to be 20-minute focus segments at a time, because our brain isn't built to focus that intensely as an endurance sport. So you want to break it up with things that you know that work with your brain to get the most focus and productivity out of your day. But one of the biggest productivity killers is going to be feeling activated and overwhelmed. And these are a couple of techniques that you can do every day, right at your office, wherever you are, as soon as you feel it, that are really going to help your system over time learn how to be into your body, out of your thoughts, because that usually creates more activation and it's not the right place to focus. Be in your body, notice how it can settle, use that as your own on-call resource to manage your activation and overwhelm in your nervous system. So it's the biggest challenge to entrepreneurs. It's the biggest beginning of this talk is the talk and practice that I start every session with entrepreneurs with that come to me with this problem, because it's so easy to start getting into this practice and this habit of learning how to regulate yourself. And it's the first place to start outside of session that will support anything that you do within session if you need a little more help. So try it out. Let me know if you have any questions. This is the basis of self-regulation therapy, that you can learn how to start regulating yourself. So give it a try. Let me know how it goes. Until next time, I hope you're well.